Hi, geographers. Today for social studies, we are going to need to know a lot of vocabulary words. We're going to want to think about the word identity, which we know means who a person is, their skin color, religion, nationality, gender, and more. We'll want to think about what the word bias means, when our brains prefer one idea or one group of people, and we don't give an equal chance to a different idea or group of people. And remember, everyone has a bias or biases. Another word we're going to talk about today is cartographer. A cartographer is someone who creates maps. We'll think about what it means to criticize, to point out what's wrong about something or someone, and what it means to be marginalized, pushed to the side, or left out. We'll also think about how maps can become distorted, twisted out of shape, or untrue. And down at the very bottom, you can see the word equity. Equity means fairness or justice. So we're going to be thinking a little bit about the history of map making. But before we do that, I just wanted to show you this timeline. And I wanted to remind you that Native people who we will be thinking about today, have been living in the Americas for 15,000 years. So, as we think about the maps that were made of the Americas, it's important to remember that Native Americans have lived on this continent for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. And there are still Native people who live in the Americas today, in the year 2020. So let's think about map making now. Map making has existed for thousands of years as well. The ancient Egyptians, who lived about 3,000 or 4,000 years ago, created this map, which was drawn or carved on a stone. This map was created on animal skin by indigenous people in the Americas. However, in the year 1492, map making had a huge boom. This was the year, you might remember, that Christopher Columbus sailed to the Americas. And we know Christopher Columbus made a lot of bad choices. He kidnapped Native people and he sold many of them into slavery. He also stole many things from the Americas. And he also started a trend. He told the Europeans, hey, come to the Americas, you can get rich. And so many Europeans wanted to come, but they needed maps to get there. So these are some pictures of the famous cartographers or map makers of that time. And I want you to take a second to just look at these images and think about the identity of these cartographers and think about how that identity might change the type of maps they drew. Your teacher can pause the video so you can type in the chat, whisper in your hand, or talk in a breakout room. What do you notice about all of these people's identity? These were the map makers during the time of Christopher Columbus. So, friends, I'm guessing many of you noticed these were all men. There were no female map makers that were allowed to create maps to sell at that time. They were also all European white men. Let's keep that in mind as we keep thinking about maps and bias. So, friends, this is Gerardus Mercator. And Gerardus Mercator was a European cartographer or map maker who created this map, which many schools still use today. It's called Mercator's projection. And you can see that Mercator drew his continent, the continent of Europe, right in the middle of the map. And he made it much bigger than it is in real life. He also drew the continent of South America, where these people lived at that time, and the continent of Africa, where these people lived, much smaller than they actually are in real life. Why do you think Mercator might have done that? What identity does Mercator have, and how might his bias have changed the way he drew the map? Teachers, you might just take a second for kids to think. Stop and think independently, or you could share out. You can pause the video here. All right, so this is a much more realistic version of our world. map. As you can see, looking at this map, the continent of Africa is huge. It's much bigger than you could tell that it was on the Mercator projection. The continent of South America is also very big, and you can see that the equator, which cuts the world in half, shows that Europe is actually much closer to the top of the Earth than it looks in the other map. Right now, teachers can pause my video and play a second video from History Now about how Boston Public Schools are changing their maps. After you watch this video, you're going to have a discussion with your class. You're going to want to think about these 3 questions. I can't wait to hear what everyone thinks. See you later, learners.